Yeah, I think that's a great question. And, I mean, I have tremendous respect for our colleagues at A16Z Bio. I think, they've really done a great job marketing and publicizing the importance of the field. I highlight a couple of things. So the first is that, uh, engineers, I think by nature, really like to work on hard problems, and understandably so. And certainly if you believe in the software as eating the world paradigm, there's a lot that can be done in terms of the application of new CS methods to solve problems that were otherwise and previously intractable. But solving problems that are hard is not always the same thing as solving a problem that's important. That's something I'd highlight. And, I'm always reminded of when I took Andrew Ng's class in grad school. He one day, threw up on the projector this slide about just different areas that you could work on in ML, basically the pantheon of different application types. And he had, this flow chart basically of getting more and more abstracted from the real problem that you're trying to solve. And, you can imagine certain things about like proving bounds of, the way different algorithms perform under different conditions. And not to say that that's not valuable, people who are doing pure math, that sort of thing, it's definitely important. For sure, they're contributing to society. I'm not trying to say otherwise. But they're not solving toward building a fundable biotech. And where we see this a lot, I'd highlight is in target discovery. There's just waves and waves of companies that are focused on discovering new types of targets. And I can understand why, right? I mean, again, there's all sorts of new approaches and new data modalities that can feed into those approaches that surface targets that maybe were previously obscured. But the reality is that's not pharma's biggest problem, right? Like pharma is already at a position where it takes forever and an infinite amount of money to develop new drugs, right? And that has a terrible, terrible impact on the patient at the end of the day. And so if you're just widening the top of the funnel with more targets, you're not really doing something that's valuable. And I think there's exceptions there. There's companies that have really done tremendously well and done interesting things in target discovery. But by and large, I see that as an area where you might be solving a problem that's hard, but it's not valuable. And that's where I think the engineering mindset can fail, because you're not thinking about the biological and translational applications. And relatedly, I think the other thing we see with engineers who are newly entering the field is they might not be aware of failures and where the skeletons are buried and what people have tried before. And two places where we see this a lot are in liquid biopsy and drug repurposing. So liquid biopsy, we were investors in Guardant. Of course, there's recent news about Grail and their acquisition and Thrive. And so I'm not saying that there hasn't been value generated there. In fact, tremendous value has been and continues to be generated there. But the incumbents have done so much work and put in so much effort and really brought to bear so much expertise that if you're starting now in that sector, you're really far behind. And I think that if you're not really from the area, you might not appreciate just how much of a head start those incumbents have. And it's a similar but different story in drug repurposing, where there's just been so many attempts and it's just been so challenging to get business models to work for various reasons. And I think that if you're not paying attention to the field, it's easy to fall into that trap. Again, thinking that the hard problem you're solving is a meaningful one. And I think this ties back also to Francisco's prior comments. It's not necessarily that you need a PhD to be able to think about these things, but I think you need knowledge of biology, you need knowledge of the field, and you need to be grounded, again, in those translational applications.